Hi, the community that I chose to do for the project, Good Community, um, is Willingboro in its entirety, so the entire city of Willingboro, New Jersey. The first criteria that I wanted to address that they mentioned was safety and the perception of safety. As far as natural disasters, Willingboro is definitely not a landscape that has a history of dealing with natural disasters. Environmental issues are basically non-existent. The Municipal Utilities Authority says that there have not been any water supply violations. But I know something that also really affects your perception of safety is the criminal justice and fire prevention presence in your community. So I wanted to look at that, and I thought it was really interesting that the police department has not only patrol, detectives, SWAT, EMT, bike patrol, motorcycle units, K9, and school resource officers, but it also places a heavy emphasis on the neighborhood watch and also community policing efforts, which I thought was really neat, especially in our current climate in our country right now, where there's just been a lot of emphasis placed on incorporating and encouraging dialogue between the police and the community itself. As far as the fire department, the Willingboro department is a combination of both full-time staff and volunteer firefighters. The full-time staff boasts a captain, um, a a chief, an assistant chief, captains, lieutenants, and 13 full-time firefighters. Unfortunately, in spite of that presence, the crime statistics for Willingboro are somewhat grim. On a scale of 1 to 100, the crime index in Willingboro received only a 27 out of 100. And this table that we're looking at basically has broken down the chances of crime, into three specific categories: chances of becoming a victim of a violent crime, chances of becoming a victim of a property crime, and crimes per square mile. Unfortunately, Willingboro has scored above the national median in all three of these categories. Now, on the brighter side, as far as goods and services, Willingboro is a very, very vibrant city with many goods and services offered, and because of the juxtaposition between Burlington Township, Delran, and Cinnaminson, if you can't find something in Willingboro, you're literally minutes away from it. And as well, you're only half an hour away from Philadelphia. So there really is no lack of ability to get to the goods and services that you need. As far as relationships and common values, this was challenging for me to express, but I think that one thing that really makes Willingboro a bonded community where people seem to really work well together and interrelate well, I believe is, well, there are three factors. One is that it is a residential suburb, but it is really closely and densely situated, so that all of the houses are very near to each other, and they're all organized around 16 parks. And the first letter of the park will dictate the letter of the streets that are surrounding the park. So it's really organized, and it's all around these recreational areas. So there's definitely an emphasis placed on relationships and interacting. Additionally, I think that it has to be noted, without any kind of prejudice or anything, that the racial demographic is unique in this specific area because where it is actually a relatively upper middle class and affluent area, it also boasts a really beautiful African American population of 70%. So while there's little diversity there, there is a really united, shared background culturally, and I think that that helps because there is a common experience, and the religion is also shared. The majority of Willingboro residents who claim to have a faith um, are Christian, so they're either Catholic or Protestant, and I think this can also establish mutual goals and values within the community. So celebrating similar holidays, maybe viewing things in a similar fashion. As far as whole person, principle, and predictability, I guess the way that I interpreted this was that if you're living in a place that's very chaotic, and like for example Manhattan or something, where people don't have the same schedules, it's very easy to fragment people, to say, oh, this is just the person I see walking their dog in the morning, and not see that person as a real human being. But in Willingboro, because the majority of people are blue collar, and the jobs that were most popular were either in the health industry or in management and production, it appeared that most people worked a 9 to 5 schedule, and the majority of people sent their children to public school. And that number of children that attend public school together was around 80%. As far as recognizing your place in the social structure, I think that I was really blown away by the history of pride and activism that came out of Willingboro, and I think there's definitely a sense of it. You really feel just an empowered presence in Willingboro. It is absolutely not a depressed area. It is just a really encouraging place, and I think some of that empowerment comes from its legacy. In the 1950s and 60s, Levitt and Sons purchased the land for Willingboro and began development. And in 1958, they started to sell the homes, but they had made a decision they weren't going to sell to anyone who was African American. And I think that what is really neat is that W.R. James, an officer in the Army's Criminal Investigation Unit at Fort Dix, sued Levitt, brought it to the Supreme Court, and won. And that is actually what created the inroads for African Americans, and that is actually what laid the groundwork for African Americans to really take hold and enjoy this beautiful suburb. And to me, that is just really neat that now there are 70% African Americans, where the intention was to suppress and discriminate. The voter turnout among the township is relatively high. Basically, it said that 65.5% were registered to vote, including 85.7% of those 18 and over. And basically, I thought that that reflected a desire to have your voice heard and to be represented. And that to me played a part in the whole empowerment. As far as opportunities, I have to say I wasn't entirely, um, I didn't find it to be incredibly optimistic. Um, Unfortunately, employment opportunities in Willingboro are not high. The current job growth is negative 0.65. But there are hopeful projections in the future that say that it is possible that there will be a growth rate of 30.20% over the next 10 years, and that's according to Sperling's. And I will say the unemployment rate is 8.50, which is significantly above the national average. However, fortunately, the Willingboro homes are still appreciating. Not very much, but last year there was a 2.1% gain. I wanted to give you the references for my information. Basically, the history and contribution of Black Americans to the development of Willingboro, city data, Sperling's best places, Levittown, home to stay, the Willingboro incarnation, now 50 years old, and Neighborhood Scout, crime rates for Willingboro, Willingboro Township, New Jersey's fire department services page, their police department page, and the Willingboro Municipal Utilities Authority. So thank you for listening. I hope you made it through, and I hope you learned something neat about Willingboro. Oh, and in conclusion, I guess I would say that I feel that it is a good community, in spite of the fact that there are not a lot of job opportunities, and in spite of the fact that the crime rate was less than desirable. I do think that the unity um, of this area is just beautiful. The people are, like I said, very empowered. They do see each other as whole persons. They invest in each other's lives, and I think that that is something to really treasure in a community. All right, thank you.